Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories. It's Easter Day, day 91 of 2024. It's March 31st. And I wanted to talk a little bit about creativity and imagination. This is something that I went over on the first day or the second day, really, of introducing 365 Days of Amazing Stories back in 2023, January 1st. What is the importance of storytelling? What is the importance of creativity and imagination? I would say that the importance of creativity and imagination is, well, it's perhaps the most important thing that we can cultivate within ourselves, because it is our creativity and our imaginations that allow us to fulfill our dreams, problem solve most anything and everything, and really can make our lives into what we truly want. Create it. Imagine it. Imagine how to problem solve something until you create what it is that you want. Overcoming obstacles, making your way through challenges. How do we do this? We do it with what exists within our experience that creates this network of responses to what it is that we're attempting, that leads us sort of through a labyrinth of possibilities until we reach our goal or destination. Now, when I begin telling a story, it engages not only my imagination and creativity, but it engages your imagination and creativity. As I relate the story, you are creating images of that story. And you're maybe creating more than just images. Perhaps you're creating sounds, imagining hearing something or smelling something or touching something. Now, Einstein used to talk about the importance of imagination. And he thought that this was far more important than knowledge. He was asked at one point, if you were to take a person, how could you make that person a genius? How would you go about doing that? His response was to tell that person stories. The same person then asked, well, if you're already working with a genius, how would you make that person more intelligent? Einstein's response was, tell them more stories. What happens within your brain physiology when you're listening to a story? Now, perhaps I could tell you the story, which I've used so many times as an example, so I'm just going to do it because this is a cool story. I was living on this street in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was in a neighborhood called Clifton. Clifton was close to the zoo, Cincinnati Zoo. It was also close to University of Cincinnati. Really cool street called Ludlow. Anyway, our house was about at the most a quarter of a mile away from Ludlow Avenue. It was a residential street. Beautiful big houses. We had an acre backyard, our house. Well, anyway, this Mayflower moving truck pulled up in the street. Now, you remember the Mayflower trucks, right? They're green, gold, and red. And they have a picture of the Mayflower, which was one of the a boat, a sailing ship, kind of riding this green sea that's painted on the side of the moving van. Pulls up, and it's a big truck, and this guy gets out of the truck. He's got a kind of a greenish suit on that matches the color of the moving truck. And he goes to the back of the truck and opens the doors. And then he lowers a ramp. Now, I figured he was going to go in and pull some furniture out for somebody or something like that. Well, he walks up the ramp, and it's not a steep ramp. It's, kind of a gentle ramp. And the back of this moving truck, it's not so far off the ground, which I think they designed them that way. So it's easy for people to move the furniture and the things that are inside out. Well, he goes inside, and he reappears, and he's kind of walking backwards, and he's hanging on to a rope. And the rope from his hand is extending somewhat up. As he backs up, from out of the moving van appears an elephant. And the elephant has been powdered into a purple color. It was like not a gray elephant. It was kind of a shades of purple elephant. More shading on the top of the elephant, and then kind of grading into a more grayish color as it went towards the feet. He leads this elephant out into the street. I am watching wide-eyed as this all takes place, wondering what is going on. He leads the elephant right toward our house. Okay, let's stop the story there. What have you been doing this whole time I've been telling the story? Hopefully you've been creating images of all this. Now, I'm just going to bring out one little detail. A purple powdered elephant. Okay, you can imagine the elephant. Now it's got its back powdered with a purplish dye or, powder. And it's all over its back. And kind of, not as thick as it descends down its body because not as much powder is on its body. You've now linked purple with elephant. It's a neural pathway that perhaps didn't exist before. You had never linked purple to an elephant, nor had you linked an elephant to a moving van, but especially a Mayflower moving van, or a man with a rope leading an elephant out of a moving van onto a street in a neighborhood. So now you've got all of these connections that were potentially not there before. And these connections are made within your brain physiology. Now maybe the purple is over on the right side of your brain and elephant is over on the left side. Maybe it's toward the front or maybe toward the back. But you're linking various parts of your brain physiology up in ways that they've never been linked before through your imagination, through your creative process. Thereby, when you are working with anything or everything, you are using more of your brain to work with any situation, any problem, anything that comes up to you to deal with. How important it is to expose ourselves to as much as we possibly can in order to develop our brain as fully as we can. The more interconnected it is, the more of our brain capacity we are using at any point in time. This is why storytelling is so important and why you should be tuning in to as many stories as you possibly can, eyes closed, as often as you can, to fully live into the images that your mind can then create and the connections that result. It's a fascinating thing to think about. Now, I'll just touch on one other thing, which if I were to encourage you as a person to get into something, I would encourage you to use your hand. Research has shown that hand stimulation is directly linked to brain development. Our hands, the hands of a human being, those of a primate, are very sensitive, capable of doing a great number of things. Anytime you have a thumb, like we do, allows for grasping, manipulation. Think of the things that you can do with your hands. The more things you learn to do with your hands, again, the more stimulated your brain becomes, the more hooked up it becomes, the more intelligent you truly are, not just in your head, but an intelligence that links your mind with your body. Full expression of your humanness. One more aspect that we truly need to think about is our heart. How can we engage that most beautiful, beautiful organ that informs so much about our world? How can we engage our hearts in our thinking and in our doing? Now, this is something, my gosh, I explore myself. I think about. I don't have answers for you here. I think it's super important. That's all I can say. Because where does love come from? From our hearts. And when we can link our thoughts and actions with love, then we become a truly powerful force. Okay, I'm going to leave it right there. Hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a good rest of your Easter day or evening.